Appraisal methods. Typically, an appraiser will use one of three different approaches. We're going to start with the first one, sales comparison approach. With this method, they will use what the subject property is, the property that someone wants to buy, and compare it with recently sold homes that are nearby. They have to be close to the subject property that you want to buy. Typically, they will use it for a single family home or for vacant land. The appraiser will try to search and find 3 to 5 houses or vacant lots that are similar to the subject property, that are similar to the home that you want to buy or the home that the person is trying to purchase. So if you compare all of these other homes that they found that are recently sold, they don't use current listings or current for sale because they want to make sure that the numbers that people are actually paying for these properties are actually what somebody is going to pay for this similar property. If the comparable properties have differences but are mostly similar, they will adjust for those small differences. For example, if it's acreage and it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar, they will use that comparison and adjust to the price to match it. If the subject property has a 2-car garage and the comparables have a 1-car garage, they will add more value to the subject property because it has 2-car garage. So they will use those adjustments to match it and try to make it as comparable in value as possible. The reason they use this approach for single family and vacant homes is because typically people do not want to pay more for a house than the average recently sold houses nearby. And another reason is if somebody wants to use a bank loan, the bank is not going to lend more money than the recently sold homes that are comparable because the bank needs to depend on the value of the home. If that house were to be foreclosed on, they need to get their money back, and they're not going to loan more than what the appraisal says it's worth. The next is called cost approach. For cost approach, they want to say how much would it cost to build that property all over again right now, minus the depreciation. So they will add the land value to this in order to get the cost approach. If that building were to completely collapse, what would it cost today to build it brand new? They typically will use this approach for special use properties like a school, a church, any new construction, and government buildings. They will use the cost approach for this. It must be exactly what you would use to build today if it were to completely be destroyed. Exactly how much it would cost to build it in the exact same way, in the exact same structure, materials, and everything. That is the cost approach. You also have to incorporate depreciation. Depreciation would be physical deterioration of the building, functional obsolescence. Functional obsolescence means that the building, when it was built back then, maybe had 6 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, but we would not build a property or a house with 6 bedrooms and 1 bathroom today. That doesn't meet our current codes or standards. So that would mean that they would use functional obsolescence to replace with the appropriate code. External obsolescence. This means now this building is close to a noisy factory, or maybe it's near a new highway that went in. That would be factored into the cost as well with the cost approach. Income approach. The income approach will depend on how much the property can bring in and produce income-wise. Typically, they use this for income-producing properties. Something like an apartment building, a shopping center, an office building. This would be an income approach. They would use this in something called NOI, net operating income. For example, if the building produces $100,000, they would take away $30,000 for expenses like the lights, electricity, maintenance, insurance. Say that costs $30,000. So now you have $70,000 of profit. That is your NOI, net operating income. And that is what provides them the cap rate of 7%. So the appraiser is going to calculate and figure out how much that building is worth, and it depends on how much income that building is actually producing or currently producing.